Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Rich Dotson, here with my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garrett Price.
How's it going?
Pretty good. I just tore my ACL talking about that. But, a little too long of an hand. I tear an ACL. No big deal. No big deal. I know a good doctor.
Yep.
We're all good. No, it's not good. Your starting lineup.
Ish.
Oof. We have a lot to cover over these next two episodes. We have some new segments. Nerd episode. We're gonna do 5 minutes of analytics. Ooh. Yeah, it's my new rap. It's my new rap song too.
Nice.
You like that?
I do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We got a lot to talk about. Dynasty, injuries, and where do we go from here? Well, it's week 2.
It is.
And
everything just got exploded.
Guess what? The season's not stopped. You never know. Tino's on top 1 minute, can be on the bottom the next. All it takes is a couple injuries, and hey, look at me. I got Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. My team's unstoppable. Week 3. Oh, man, I scored 12 points. But before we get into all this greatness, one word from our sponsor. That's MyBookie. That's right. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know the NFL is back and NBA playoffs are in full swing, which can only mean one thing. It's a winning season at MyBookie. I don't know about you guys, but for me, a game is 10 times more exciting when I'm putting my money on it. Sometimes I have a gut feeling about a matchup, and sometimes I just bet on my team because, well, they're my team. Go Browns. $1 million. Knew it was Lock City. Regardless, whether you've been betting for years or you're ready to play for the first time, MyBookie is your best bet this season. With the biggest online selection of bets and props, they've made it simple to win and easy to withdraw your cash. Right now, they've got a $100,000 super contest for only a $10 entry. And they're giving away $5,000 in cash prizes every 4 weeks. You would be crazy not to invest in your sports knowledge with that kind of potential return on your investment. $10 to win thousands? Guys, sign me up. You too can sign up at MyBookie. Just use that promo code NERDS and you can claim a 100% deposit match all the way up to $1,000. That means if you put $100 in, they'll give you another $100 for free. It's that easy. Just jumpstart your bankroll right away with MyBookie using that promo code NERDS. NFL, NBA, MLB, they've got it all on tap, and it's never too late to get started with your winning season exclusively at MyBookie. Check them out today. Use that promo code NERDS and double up your money. Stay away from where all the sharks are and get to MyBookie. Guys, we have so much to get into. ACLs galore. And worse, even like Courtland Sutton, there's rumors they tore up more than his ACL. It said he tore up his knee. That's not good.
No, last person that we heard about that was Rashad Penny, I think, tore up his knee, and he hasn't been seen since. But bad news. I mean, obviously, he's gone for the season, but luckily it was early in the season. So hopefully, as long as it's not, there's a bunch of extra surgery type of thing and swelling and infections, he should be back in time for the beginning of next year.
For someone to take a big step forward, somebody who I thought you can give away a top 3 pick for going into the season, it's devastating. For him, coming into, it was supposed to be a big year. This young offense was supposed to gel. Now Drew Lock's out for a couple weeks. Great news for Jerry Jeudy, but not when. I mean, is it really great news that Jeff Driscoll is throwing you the ball?
That's the thing. I don't know that it's super great news at this point. It's that offense is gonna be kind of gross. I think. Like, I know Jeff Driscoll's a decent athlete. He's not a terrible quarterback. He's had some NFL time, but it's not what you envisioned at all.
No, not draft. But they still have a sound running game with Philip Lindsay's out with turf toe, too. He's out as well. So it's good for Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon actually averaging over 5 yards per carry for the first time in the history of Melvin Gordon's career, which I think since Wisconsin. So this is great news for Melvin. Noah Fant looks absolutely terrific in that offense as well as their number one weapon. KJ Hamler get a little bit more play that kind of like that Deshaun Jackson role to go down deep. And, of course, Jerry Jeudy's route running's, I mean, it's really second to none.
Right. And I think it, obviously the Sutton injury in particular helps clear up things a little bit, because there were so many weapons that it was kind of hard to judge where the ball was going to go to. Right. So now it looks like, obviously, Drew Lock's not going to be throwing the ball for the next few weeks, but Driscoll, I think, at least was semi-competent and was able to support some fantasy producers. So now that Fant's probably going to be the go-to guy, at least in the early on. Yeah. He looks like the most established guy, and then Jerry Jeudy will probably follow up and start picking up some of that slack as well going forward.
What I love about Fant so far through 2 weeks is his hands look really good. Yeah. I kind of went over that stat line yesterday where the top 5 tight ends were. Obviously now Darren Waller's taking a massive step after catching 1,311 footballs on Monday Night Football. But for that's a really good group. Noah Fant, T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle, Dallas Goedert, Darren Waller. To go along with Travis Kelce and Ertz is a little bit older tight ends. I think that's a new tier. Evan Ingram, to me, is kind of taking a step back out of that tier. Right. I think even Hunter Henry right now, until he gets locked in with Justin Herbert and what they're going to do out there in L.A., I think Evan Ingram and Hunter Henry are in their own tier, which is like a foot in that first tier. But we still need to see a little bit more out of them.
And then there were some surprise guys that kind of came out of nowhere this past week. Obviously, people, we're expecting something from Gesicki, but he had a pretty big week.
Monster week.
And then Dalton Schultz, the guy that stepped in for Blake Jarwin, had a nice week. Drew Sample, who no one expected anything really out of in this second year, had a nice big week as well.
Well, we mentioned Drew Sample not too long ago. I think it was like a couple months ago. Like, this guy's practically free and possibly in your waiver wires. What I really liked about Sample is, obviously CJ Uzomah goes down. He's out for the year, this ACL. If you can think of every other player, Achilles, is that what it was
which
for him?
Which is even worse, honestly.
It is worse, actually. So for Drew Sample, what I liked about Drew Sample is like he looked really athletic. Like we thought he was going to be this just big blocking tight end that would be used kind of in a tight end role, but he looked pretty athletic out there on Thursday Night Football. Made that one really nice one-handed catch too, like reaching out, extending for the ball.
Right.
I came pretty away impressed. After the game, I literally left. I was actually at the game. And when I was walking out, not only was I excited the Browns were winning, won, but one of the things in my head as I was walking back to my car was going, man, I was really impressed with Drew Sample. Like everything he did tonight on the field impressed me. This is like a great dynasty pickup/buy. And then you get on Twitter the next day and everybody's like, ooh, Drew Sample's a buy. He's a sneaky buy low. You're like, oh, well, everybody's hip.
Not a sneaky anymore.
Not sneaky anymore. But it's the first thing when I was leaving the game and I was excited about the Browns looking good, but I was thinking about Drew Sample on the way home.
Yeah, he was sneaky, when we mentioned him 2 or 3 weeks ago. But now that he's, seen the field and is in a role now where he's going to be getting funneled. Yeah,
that was 2 months ago.
Not very sneaky. Yep.
Yeah. So here, and you got to remember, in Dynasty Fantasy Football, injury brings a lot of different things. In season's always crazy, right? This is where you acquire draft. This is the best time to acquire draft picks, best time to make trades, and we're well deep into it week 2 already. Like we just shook up. It's middle of December. We didn't care. We took all our clothes. We dove into water. Is it cold? Is it freezing? We don't know. Our nipples will only tell us, but we're going to find, we don't care because in Dynasty, injuries bring out the movement, the shaking up the league, right? Mm-hmm. This is where the best deals are to be had. The best deal. And this is where the overpays are to be had because opportunity meets, a good price tag. Devontae Freeman, a bottom of the barrel kind of player, just signs with the New York Giants, and now he holds value again because he's going to be the guy there in New York. I kind of feel about that, not overly excited because if Saquon Barkley can't do anything behind that line, what do we expect Devontae Freeman to do behind that line?
Yeah, he didn't look very good last year with the Falcons, and he didn't have any training camp. So everyone had reduced training camp. He's had no training camp. You have to expect it's going to take a little while for him to hopefully look halfway decent.
I concur, man.
It's going to take a bit.
If you can get anything for that guy, if somebody's jumping on that, definitely make that move. He's towards the end of his career. He didn't look great, like you said. So it's going to be very difficult to get a lot of production I think out of him.
Matt, I have Saquon Barkley in the league that I went all in, and Matt has Devontae Freeman. And I sent him a text. I was like, hey, what's going to take for Devontae Freeman? And he's like, you don't have any draft picks. I'm like, I know. He just wrote back. He's like, well, I'm interested in Preston Williams,
It was like it's a one quarterback league, so it was Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Preston Williams, Daniel Jones, and something. And I just looked at it and I didn't reply. And they're like 10 minutes later, it's like, well, just let me know. I'm like, will do.
But it was the league that he went all in, and
he has no pieces to actually make a move for that kind of guy.
I had no expectations to actually get any of those guys, but those were the only guys on his team that I could see him parting with, and that I would take.
Right.
Other than that, he's got complete trash that I don't even want.
I was thinking more of like a Keelan Cole.
I'll get the guy that you just picked up off waiver wires last week.
I did not pick Keelan Cole up. I've had Keelan Cole on my roster this entire time. If you remember right, if I talked Keelan Cole a month ago, like that guy can put together and make sure he can catch football. He's a very solid fantasy football player. He's a hard worker.
But what I'm trying to do in especially in that league is unload guys like Devontae Freeman and pick up draft picks. Like that, me and you are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Word.
So I would rather, if I'm not going to get one of those pieces, I'm just going to give them to one of your competitors and get what I want.
And hope he does well.
Which I'm totally okay with, because I hope they start that. I hope they start Devontae Freeman first. Me. So it's more of a depth thing. But with injuries come, it's what we're looking for. We're looking for key opportunities to buy and sell. We always say Dynasty is kind of like the stock market. It's about buying and selling at the right time. And when these news hit of a guy like Devontae Freeman selling, people are like, oh, Devontae Freeman selling. He's starting right away. He's going to kind of be like
signing, not selling.
Yeah, his signing in New York. He's going to be kind of like Saquon Barkley. But no, it's not the case. Devontae Freeman's definitely a really good opportunity to sell. There's an opportunity you might be able to get a 21-second for him. Here, if you could do it and do a flip somehow and just move up in the draft for Devontae Freeman, he's definitely going to start off really slow. They still have Wayne Gallman there, who they like. Deion Lewis got a ton of carries there. So I look at definitely to start being a running back committee. And does, like we said, Devontae Freeman's not ready to go. Speaking of Saquon, tears his ACL, devastating to so many leagues. I mean, if you have Saquon, you're most likely a contender because you have Saquon.
Or you were.
Couple days ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was telling Garrett, I have Christian McCaffrey and Saquon. I'm the number one team. Nobody could beat me. And then week 3, you're like, yeah, I'm not doing anything whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So, are we buying Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if this depresses his market, I mean, obviously you're not gonna be able to use him this year, but he's still a very valuable asset. I think that line is young, it's
right,
and bad. There's a difference between like old crusty guys that just are terrible and they need to completely overhaul this thing. These guys just need to get a little bit of experience, and I think it is going to be a much better offensive line 6 months from now than it is now.
So the biggest question here is going to be for the Barkley owners. So they're listening here asking, okay, who do I go after? Obviously it depends if a team's a contender or not contender, because you're going to have to take a slight loss on here to get Barkley. You're going to take a running back that's not as good as Barkley, does not hold as much dynasty value, and go out there and trade. So would you trade Barkley for Jonathan Taylor straight up?
I'd rather Jonathan Taylor
than Barkley.
Yep.
Okay.
You'd rather you
straight up, I would trade if somebody offered me Jonathan Taylor for Saquon Barkley today, and it wouldn't really matter what position I'm in, because if I'm rebuild, Jonathan Taylor is a great piece. If I'm a contender, I can win this year with Jonathan Taylor. So I'll take the extra few years and not back-to-back years of pretty significant injuries.
Huh.
Matt?
Interesting. Well, that's a
straight up. You take Jonathan Taylor.
I don't know that I'm there with Jonathan Taylor.
I'm not there yet either. Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Straight up.
Yes.
So yeah, now that's where we differ. That's closer for me, and I think that's just our preference on the player.
I think it is. Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think there's about 4 or 5 running backs I would take over Barkley right now.
And it's for me, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's the player and it's the fit in the system, and it's a very explosive offense, and it's going to score a lot of fantasy points.
He's Alvin Kamara, a younger Alvin. That's what it is. He's Alvin Kamara in a better offense.
I think that's a bad comparison, because I think he's better in between the tackles than Alvin Kamara is.
He's definitely better between the but that kind of like, he's not Alvin Kamara. He's strictly a pass catcher and running back. I mean, being 5'8" doesn't really help. But you know what? I mean? He's a player that is not the best running back in the NFL, but in the perfect system for him. That's what he is.
For that purposes, yes.
That's how I should line up when I say Alvin Kamara. Because I've said it so many times on the podcast. I always say, is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the NFL? No, but he's in the perfect system for him and scheme, which makes him a top 5 fantasy football running back. Right. He's locked in and catching those footballs. Any running back that does that is fantastic. It's why I've been preaching Jerick McKinnon for 2 years, and the reason Jerick McKinnon had at least 13.4 points in PPR leagues over the first 2 weeks of the season. Why? Well, because I've got crystal balls. 2 balls, 2 years, no problem. So, Joe Mixon, Matt.
Joe
Mixon or Saquon Barkley? Right now, you have Saquon Barkley. Somebody, hey,
tell me anything you know about him. Go.
Middle name, height, weight, girlfriend's name,
6 foot,
mother's maiden name.
6 foot. 228. Don't know.
So Joe Mixon owner approaches you today. Hey, I'll give you Joe Mixon for Saquon Barkley.
I am going to keep Saquon Barkley for that price.
I'm going to keep Saquon.
I'm going to keep Saquon too. Dalvin Cook.
That's probably a little bit trickier. If I'm going to win, or if I'm trying to win this year, I'm going to make that move. And I'm taking the hit. Because obviously long term I'm taking the hit, but for my success this year, I'll take Dalvin Cook.
The hard part is I'm acquiring a running back that also has a history of injuries.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the part that's the struggle for me on this. Assuming health, I would do it, but that's a tough assumption with a guy like Dalvin Cook.
It's a tough assumption for any
running back.
Yeah, it's
I'll stick with Matt on that. If it's a contender, I would.
I wouldn't either. I would rather keep Saquon and red on strip than Joe Mixon. I like Joe Mixon. I don't love Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
You said Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook. I would hold Saquon because I'll take the 2 years.
Either way.
So the big thing here is also you got to remember, and I say this all the time on the podcast over the years, and reason why my rankings are set up a certain way, it's because I always say the running back's the most fluid position in fantasy football, and nothing's guaranteed. And we're sitting here talking about Saquon Barkley, who had a fantastic rookie year, finished as a top-tier fantasy football running back. Year 2, gets hurt, doesn't finish a running back 1. Year 3, gets hurt week 2, will not finish as a running back 1. 1 out of 3 years, he's a running back 1. This guy is going into the season was a 1-2 overall dynasty player in 99.9% of dynasty people's rankings or dynasty rankings, right? Mm-hmm. So it's such a. This is why these running backs, if you can get younger, because honestly, it's the young guys that hardly ever get hurt. Now Saquon is young, but it just they hold up a little bit better. Here's a name for you, Josh Jacobs. Or Saquon.
I knew this one was coming.
I would trade Saquon straight up for Josh Jacobs today.
So would I.
100%. Not even feel bad about it. I'll tell you this much: how good Josh Jacobs looks. If the guy want to bend me over right now, I'm like a contender, and he's like, "Listen, man, I want Saquon and I want your third." I'd be like, "Here you go. You want me to sign that third for you?"
I mean, I'm never going to let a third get in the way of a deal, so I wouldn't care about that either. But there was another interesting thing. I was listening to the radio the other day, and it was NFL radio. I can't remember who was on the radio, but they were talking like they had a conversation with the judge, the coach from Joe Judge, thank you, from the Giants, and I guess he had some concerns about Saquon's ability, or not ability, but his willingness to pass protect, and about how that's kind of become like an issue. And if that's going to be an issue, I mean, the guy has all the talent in the world. He could do it, but it sounds like he's just not 100% willing to get in there and get dirty and do it. I haven't seen this on tape, but it was something that he brought up specifically after having talked with the coach. And that's a little bit worrisome, because if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to be in on those passing situations. And that somewhat is going to limit his upside. His upside a little bit going forward. Top that on top of all the injuries the past couple of years. This could be a slight little depression in his value. I wouldn't have any problem taking Josh Jacobs and giving a third if I needed to get that deal done.
You say Jonathan Taylor. Mm-hmm. We say Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would listen to Jonathan Taylor, but I feel like I'd want to get it a little bit more back, because I think Jonathan Taylor's a fantastic running back. That's not the case here at all, and he's being. The one thing here is what I'm somewhat worried about Jonathan Taylor. The only thing, again, my question mark would be is, he's being used in the passing game now, but it's Phillip Rivers' MO to pepper the running back. Will that continue? That's a question too. So for me, Saquon is only 23 years old, but there is major concern here that he's going to have 2 out of 3 years not finishing as a running back one. The good news is it's a clean ACL tear. He'll be more than ready to go by, honestly, probably ready to go come like March. He'll be feeling good. He'll be here for OTAs, mini camp, all that. So it should be good to go. So are you using this time right now? So if you're a Barkley owner, are you holding tight? Or are you just looking, listen, this is 2 out of 3 years. I'm getting out. I can't risk. You're not, that juice isn't worth the squeeze for what your value is as a number 2 overall Dynasty player. I already moved down my Dynasty ranks a little bit now already, bumped Zeke ahead of him and a couple others. And I honestly feel like I need to move him down a little bit farther personally. Myself saying that, sure. I will say I'm not quite ready to abandon ship on Saquon.
No.
But I do think he's definitely entered that hashtag 2 to 3 year window where he's not that upper tier echelon running back that I could hold on to 5 years. I feel comfortable holding on to. He's not that kind of running back yet. I think I could ride him into next year, and then once he comes back healthy, he'll be prime point getter. I think I'd rather take that return, then because a prime Saquon at his finest, you can get Jonathan Taylor plus. Mm-hmm. You can get Clyde Edwards-Helaire plus. So I might start venturing into that, like, okay, what other good young running back can I get by 3 years or 2 years? Maybe it's Travis Etienne and plus, and start going that route. But these running backs that start getting hurt every single year, that starts to worry me way too much to hold on to as a top 5 Dynasty startup value at that position. Again, it's the only thing that holds true. These Dynasty wide receiver ones, year in, year out, produce. These running backs are such a gamble. Christian McCaffrey, and it's not his fault. Just injuries happen to running backs too much. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, high ankle sprain, 4 to 6 weeks. That's half the year. That's half the fantasy football season.
Yeah, it sucks. And I mean, at this point, Christian McCaffrey has literally never missed a game in his career. Like, he has had a clean bill of health the entire time. Like, people are even joking about, like, has this dude ever even missed a practice? I'm not sure he's even missed a practice before. So I mean, he's always been good to go. And he even said in his one press conference via Zoom, because everything's via Zoom right now, but when he was talking about it, he was like, I'm going to take this on, and like, my goal is to beat this timeline. And so, somebody that is in as good of shape as he is, in the prime of his career like he is, it would not shock me if, week 5 we see him back on the field or something like that.
I agree. I think it's a 4-week hiatus at the most for him because how good of shape he is. And for him, it's a high ankle sprain, so it's not end of the world. It's not a PCL
right.
strain or anything like that.
Right,
just
right.
It's a high ankle. Christian McCaffrey coming back. That's good news. Some other players are not coming back. Paris Campbell not coming back-to-back year.
It might just be the short-term IR.
Yeah, it's a PCL.
But they did say indefinitely, and the reports are the insiders saying they would not be shocked if it was his entire year. It's a PCL and MCL strain.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So, but they haven't like officially called him out for the season yet. It doesn't look good either way.
Drew Lock out 3 to 6 weeks. Raheem Mostert sprained MCL, unlikely to play in week 3. Should be back soon. On top of that, Tevin Coleman is hurt as well. Guys, Jerick McKinnon's getting all of the carries.
Jerick McKinnon, and they're gonna
wrap him in bubble wrap, please.
Yeah. So it's Jerick McKinnon, Jeff Wilson, right?
And JaMycal Hasty.
And JaMycal Hasty will probably get bumped up from the practice squad, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. So if he's available, he's probably worth an ad right now. Hasty.
Because Coleman's out for like multiple weeks.
Yeah, I think I have it on here as well.
Well, I mean, I think we kind of called that, right? There was only a matter of time before Tevin Coleman kind of got nicked up or just turned into a complete turd that you wanted to flush. So here it is.
And he wasn't playing great either. He had like 12 carries for 14 yards or something like that. Like he had not played well this game either.
It was clear Jerick McKinnon's the number 2, Raheem Mostert. And it sucks because Raheem Mostert looked absolutely fantastic.
He broke another record for speed. He was like 23.1 miles per hour was his top end speed or something on the
Dude,
one.
Probably underranked in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Probably.
Sterling Shepard, turf toe, questionable, but probably 2 to 4 weeks. Malcolm Brown broke his pinky, but he's going to probably play because he had surgery on it.
He had surgery on it, right? So that.
But his opposite, who's not looked just looked okay is Cam Akers. Separated rib cartilage. He's questionable, but he ain't going to play.
That's like like a pain tolerance type of thing. So,
he'll sit out this week.
He'll probably sit out this week and then get ejected.
As soon as he went down, I saw it. I was like, dude, he landed right in the football, and the way he came up and holding it, I was like, dude, he broke his rib. Like, he's missing a week.
Surprisingly, Henderson actually looked pretty good in their absence.
Got a big boost in my Dynasty rankings. Number one claim. Dude, he actually, he burst speed.
Well, he's finally healthy. I mean, that was a big thing. He's not been healthy much so far. So you worry about those running backs that are always nicked up. He does seem to be one of those guys. But this backfield is wide open.
Like, I was to say, Xavier Jones is on this roster as well.
Xavier Jones, he actually ended up being the 10th rated running back in our nerd score. Guy that we really liked his tape. Went undrafted, but
stuck. He was on the active roster.
But he stuck. He made the 53-man roster, which was kind of a surprise out of camp because they ended up cutting a couple other guys that people really liked.
I have Xavier Jones everywhere.
Yep.
Because I was drafting, people were like,
not everywhere, because I have him in one of the leagues.
Everywhere. To me, so Darrell Henderson, he did look good in that game, but I'm still gonna go back to my college, coming out of Memphis, his tape then. Like, I wasn't overly excited as everybody else in the community was. I thought he was really one-dimensional, which is fine to be that one-cut north-south runner, and that's what he looked well doing for LA. Do you think now, with all these injuries, Darrell Henderson is a great sell?
I would have no problem selling him.
I wouldn't have a problem selling him either, but I'm not that attached to him to begin with. So,
so you have Darrell Henderson on your roster. Somebody's like, "Hey, I'll give you a 21-second for Darrell Henderson." Yep. Are you jumping in right away?
Well, most years, yes. This is a really interesting year. Like, any and all running back depth this year is a premium. So, like, if I'm going to sell a running back of any value, I probably want you to overpay to get it, because there are teams that are literally having to trot out like, oh man, like my RB1 right now is Damian Harris. Hopefully he gets off the IR soon. Like, like it's bad. It's bad out there for some teams.
It really is bad. I wouldn't have a problem taking a second though, personally. I that's likely what you had to pay for him. So you're at least getting it back and getting another shot at, I think, at a good player.
Yeah, I would take a second immediately for Darrell Henderson, because you still have to remember they still have Malcolm Brown, who's coming back this week, who does not have the pinky. Cam Akers was
back. Doesn't have a pinky?
No, he cut it off. He pulled a Ronnie Lott, man. He's like, get rid of it. So tough
time holding on to that ball.
I just think he's a real hot name right now, just in the Twitterverse and in the Dynasty community, where you can jump on that and get a 21-second. They drafted Cam Akers. They have Malcolm Brown there. Like I said, they have Xavier Jones. I think this falls perfectly in that window of I can get something for somebody who to me is clearly not in the plans long term. It's just even the coach staff, just a guy, right? They kept Xavier Jones. And they loved him a ton. They just kept 3 backs. They still have Malcolm Brown, who they're using as the main guy, even over the guy they took in the second round, Cam Akers, who they took over J.K. Dobbins, which is silly. So to me, I think this is he falls in the category of hold, not of let's see what he can do, or hold, immediate sell this week.
It's just hilarious to me. I don't understand the plan there, because they spend back-to-back years high round picks on running backs, and neither one of them have been super impressive. But what they needed to make any running back look good was offensive linemen. Why did you not spend all that on offensive linemen and then just let Malcolm Brown, who you had the whole time, do this? It's just a weird philosophy of what they were trying to do in the draft for me.
It is. I mean, you'll see that, and you'll see. I think it's one of those things where you kind of you swing and miss once, and then you try to come back and kind of patch what you did over here with another player at the same position. But really what needs to be done is the things around them need to be addressed, and kind of, build up the player through coaching a little bit, So we'll see, man. You see it all the time in places like New England. They just seem to keep drafting wide receivers. Yeah,
they can't get that position right.
They can't seem to get that one right. Although N'Keal Harry, it looks like he's kind of turning it up a little bit this past week.
Get that bum Tom Brady out of there, and then you bring in a stud Cam Newton who consistently finishes a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Then you're golden. You're golden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cam looks great.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yeah,
and he's only making $1 million.
But he looks like $1 million.
He looks like $1 million. Devontae Adams hamstring, but he's going to play. Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, he's week to week with the ankle sprain. Chris Godwin, he's back from concussion protocol. Rashad Perriman, he's week to week with an ankle injury. Kenny Galladay expected to play in week 3.
Who did the 49ers play this past week?
The Jets. And they have to go back to MetLife to play the Giants this week.
They stayed, didn't they?
They stayed.
Yeah.
And the issue was potentially that turf. That's what they kept complaining about, was the turf there. And they have to go back and play on that same turf this week.
The turf, whenever they first built that stadium, there were people getting all sorts of ACL tears. And so the turf has been an issue for like the past 4 or 5 years, I feel like. Why the hell haven't they changed the turf there?
I don't know, but the Browns play there in back-to-back weeks too. And come in December, and they better keep their filthy turf off my ACLs of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and Baker and the rest of my loves.
Jeez, oh man.
So that's it with the injuries this week. Hopefully everybody come out of this week 3 healthy and stay and keep going, right? Because we said in the beginning of the year, like, this could be a war of nutrition or a war of attrition. Either way, I mean, if you want to like be eating healthy, if you don't eat healthy, eat your vegetables, it's a war of nutrition, or it could be a war of attrition, whatever that word wants to mean as well. I don't know. I'm not a walking, talking dictionary, so I can't tell you. But we said beforehand, I loaded up on a lot of rosters I was a contender because I was worried about this happening. I need depth and a lot of depth. I want to go as deep as I could possibly go. I mean, I'm trying to satisfy me and my dynasty team at the same time.
You tell them, John Holmes.
You got that right.
Mm-hmm.
And see, take John Holmes divided by 18. And they were there. So,
but yeah, no, honestly, but we did say it. I mean, we were worried more so about the COVID lists and these kind of outbreaks. But same thing can be applied to all these injuries with the shortened off season as well.
Yeah, when these guys go, they go hard. They go real hard, John Holmes. So you get full speed, soft tissues issues, and some ligament tears. Matt, how about a word from one of our sponsors? Speaking of John Holmes, don't be a 70s porn star and clean yourself up a little bit. Just because you've been in quarantine doesn't give you an excuse to have an afro down below, right?
Absolutely.
Clean yourself up. Bonsai that bush. Football season is upon us, and due to quarantine, it's possible you could have Zeke's haircut in your pants. That's why our partners at Manscaped have partners to make sure you don't gamble on shaving down below the same way you gamble on football as a backup quarterback's ACL, because that's the only one we know for sure is probably safe at this point unless you're Taysom Hill. They offer the Lawnmower 3.0, which is the best hygiene tool for modern man. Because of their ceramic blade and skin-safe technology, your nicks and snags will be reduced. This is the perfect protection needed for your franchise quarterback. Listen, Thanksgiving's coming up, Halloween's coming up. You might want to wear one of those sexy man outfits, right? You don't need that stuff going on down there, right? Mm-mm. What if you want to wear a Speedo?
Right.
Yeah.
You got to clean that area up.
That's a very normal costume.
I don't know what you go for Halloween, but I go if it's
guy in a Speedo.
It all starts with a Speedo. Like for me, that's the beginning. Like I got my Speedo. Where do I go from here?
Classic costumes. Sexy nurse, guy in a Speedo. Every Halloween.
Oh, dude.
He's usually a cowboy with a Speedo and a vest.
There it is.
What about the year I went as Superman who only remembered his cape and his Speedo and forgot the blue jumpsuit with an S on it? That was me one year.
That was him.
That's how I base it. Couldn't do that without my Manscaped 3.0. It's fantastic.
That last one was before the Manscaped. It was bad.
Their perfect package 3.0 comes with a new and improved Lawnmower Performance Boxer Briefs and a travel bag for you to use when we're done quarantining, and some other liquid formulations like the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver. I have both those. Love them. I don't even let you know what the lady thinks.
I don't want to know.
Nope, she loves them too.
That's personal between you and your wife.
For a limited time, subscribers get not 1, but 2 free gifts. The Shed Travel Bag, which is worth like $39, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. You can get all of this for 20% off and free shipping with the promo code NERDS at manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code NERDS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com using that promo code NERDS. Do yourself a favor. Do your significant other a favor. Clean your dirty self up, okay? You want to know what? You want to know how you get an ACL injury? Carrying around that extra weight.
Yep.
Trim it down.
You can't
bonsai that bush.
You can't make a cut with that big bush down
there. No. Sometimes you cut too hard, you bleed.
Yep, absolutely.
So manscaped.com prevents that. Ooh, and it's got a light too in case electricity goes off. Oh no, the electricity's off. What are we going to do? Oh, I know what we can do. But before we do. What's that noise? It's me working you up. So, now that I'm worked out, let's get back to Dynasty Fantasy Football, shall we? I love Manscaped. They're my favorite.
They are my favorite too.
20% off, nerds. Speaking of one of my favorites, here's a word from another one of my favorites, budsbutter.com. Oh, I love Buds Butter. Here's Tanner Buds to tell you about their fantastic product.
Hey guys, this is Tanner Buds from Buds Butter. I'll try to keep this short and sweet for you guys so you can get back to your football talk. But we are running another giveaway on our website at budsbutter.com. First off, our family wants to thank everyone for all the support you've given us over the last couple of months. It's been awesome to meet some of you guys and talk about any CBD or hemp questions you might have. Our phone number is on our website at budsbutter.com. So if you have any questions about dosing or what CBD can help you with, don't be afraid to reach out. We recently were able to do a price reduction of all of our products by 25%. So that is permanent. That's to stick. We were able to do this because we have a family farm, so we don't need to buy our CBD extract from an outside source, and we're able to pass those savings right on to you guys. So we're going to keep the same 20% off and free shipping on orders over $20 with code NERD for you guys, and that ties directly in with our giveaway. So we decided to do another giveaway. The last one was a $25 gift card. This will be a $50 gift card to a business of your choosing. This could be a small local restaurant or a big franchise. It really doesn't matter to us. I know the last guy got his gift card to a local brewery in his area, or maybe you want to get a new Eagles or Browns jersey or a jersey to your favorite team. I know a $50 Fanatics gift card or to a pro shop or something that pays for like half your jersey right there. So you can get creative if you win. Doesn't really matter to us. We'll reach out to the person and have them set the gift card off to the side for you. To enter, you just got to enter code NERD, N-E-R-D, at our checkout at budsbutter.com. It's got to be an order over $20. You can enter as many times as you want to increase your chances of winning. We will be announcing the winner in a month. We'll either be reaching out or we'll have Rich announce it on our ad. If you haven't tried out the new Dynasty Nerds Dynasty GM tool, I highly suggest checking that out. It's an amazing tool. It's replaced all of my Fantasy Pros, my Dynasty Calculator subscriptions. They're constantly updating it. It's just been really beneficial for me. So I highly suggest checking that out if you guys haven't yet. If you're kind of on the edge about it, I know that they have a 3-day free trial for it right now. So yeah, check that out. Thanks again, everyone, and good luck on the giveaway.
Thanks, Tanner. Check that out. Buds Butter with B-U-D-Z butter.com. Use that promo code NERD and get 20% off your order. I love it. You'll love it too. So guys, right now, let's play a little game. Garrett?
Woo! Game time. All right. We're going to do another game this week. We're going to call LPR for short. This is likely, probable, or ridiculous. All right? Likely, probable, or ridiculous. I'm going to read.
What about nutritionist?
That is a great career.
Yes.
In the battlefield.
Okay.
And we'll have to add that for next week. Nutritionist, because it is a battle.
It is a battle out
war.
there.
It's a war. A war of nutrition.
All right. So I'm going to read a sentence. You guys tell me if this is likely, it's possible, or it's ridiculous.
I have no idea what's coming.
All right. Likely, possible. I think I said probable before. I meant possible. Likely, possible, or ridiculous. All right.
Pussyfooting around.
Leonard Fournette is the top running back in Tampa after his week 2 outburst. Is that likely? Is that possible? Or is that ridiculous?
I think it's likely. The coach has been coming out and saying things all offseason how Ronald Jones is his guy, but then he went out and signed Leonard Fournette the first chance he got. I just don't think Leonard Fournette was ready week 1 to take on a full role. But now that he's been there a couple weeks, and now that he's actually shown himself on the field to be halfway decent, I think he'll take that role.
If this was on Facebook, I would like it. Likely. 100%. This is easy. We said the Dynasty Fantasy Football is like the stock market, right? Buy low, sell high. Where are those windows? You had a window for Ronald Jones. It was there.
Yep.
He was going in to play Carolina. That defense is terrible. Against the run, even more terrible. War and nutrition, he could fight it for you for one game. That was week 1. You had that window. It's gone. This is easily Ronald Jones on the back burner here. I mean, he's almost cuttable at this point in redraft because he doesn't look good running the ball. He looks like the Ronald Jones we've been talking about for a couple of years. Turd Berg, okay? Sure, he's a super guy. That's fine. But when it comes to fantasy football points, he doesn't get them. They don't accumulate.
It was interesting because after the game, Bruce Arians, he went right back to it, Matt. He went right back to it, and he said, we're gonna keep things the way they were. We just, Leonard Fournette looked fresh for the fourth quarter, so we liked it, but we're gonna keep things the way they were. But I mean, you even have Tom Brady out here tweeting about it. Did you see the love he was giving Leonard Fournette? I mean, it's
because he knows Ronald Jones isn't going to done. They're not playing good when Ronald Jones is on the field, and they got the same amount of carries, I think, in week 2 versus Carolina, and I think Ronald Jones averaged like 1 point yard, something like that. And then
he had that fumble, and that's what really changed the tide there. I think was that fumble.
I think Leonard Fournette's very likely to be the guy going forward and be a running back too.
Yep.
All right, likely. All right, number 2, Drew Brees is washed and about to hit the Peyton Manning cliff. Is that likely? Is it possible? Or is it ridiculous?
Big Drew Brees fan, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. That is very likely. Not only is he at the cliff, he's over the cliff, and he's actually hanging onto the cliff with his pinky. And we all know about pinkies, so they're not very strong.
Good job, Malcolm Brown.
And if he's riding a lot, he's dead because the pinky's gone. So
chopped it off.
It's not looking good at all. I mean, if you're in a super flex league and you can get a sandwich for Drew Brees right now and sell the point that Michael Thomas is coming back, then do it. It's just he can't push the ball but downfield.
And that was the one thing I wanted to let Rich go first because I didn't actually watch the game last night. I ended up going to sleep pretty early, and I've heard all this stuff, but I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I didn't want to make a comment until I saw it.
Yeah, just cannot push the ball downfield. And then when he does, like it's like it looks like he's giving it all he's got to make the throw, and it looks like he's just trying so hard. And it's still not getting where it needs to be.
And there was a lot of times you would see him like double clutching too, like trying to like get everything behind it.
So I mean, he was a guy that when he came into the league, I think there were arm strength issues, and then he kind of really built up his body and changed his workout routine. And I don't think that was an issue through the middle portion of his career at all. But obviously, the guy, I mean, he's 42.
41? I think he's 2 years behind Brady age-wise.
Okay, 41, 42.
I think either way.
Yeah, either way. He's older than me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's he might just be to that point in his career where physically he's just in a decline. So until I see it, I don't want to make a comment. But if he's looking like Phillip Rivers out there and he can't push it downfield, he'll probably have a few good games here and there when the weather gets cold. We'll see how it really goes.
Tom Brady's an outlier. Not everybody can play the 42 and still look good. And Drew Brees looks to be that kind of guy. I think he's going to realize, I think this is it. I think this is the last year for Drew Brees. Speaking of stuff before on the next one, can we go back to Leonard Fournette real quick?
Sure.
Would you guys be willing to, would you buy Leonard Fournette for a 21 second?
Oh,
21 second? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it would get it done, though.
You don't think it would get done at this point?
No.
Because I feel like a week ago you could have got Fournette for a 21 second.
I tried. So here's a good example. I tried with our own Jared Wackerly. We're in a league together. He put Leonard Fournette on the block. I offered up. It was a team that's an absolute contender, really, really good team. I offered him a second and Michael Pittman Jr., and he turned it down.
Oh.
So I think most of the people that have Leonard Fournette are probably sticking to their guns because they think they have something.
If you offer Michael Pittman Jr. and a second, and he said no?
He said no.
So I mean that's like a back end of the first.
And this was right before the season started.
Or like a high second round draft pick and you know
mine would have been mine, so it probably would have been low because I was a legit
I'm talking the value of Michael Pittman.
Right, gotcha.
So he back end first round, high end of second round, and then likely an end of the second round draft pick. So
you and I are in a league together.
It's that league.
And I have Leonard Fournette.
Oh, it's not that league. It's a different league.
It's that league. No, it's not.
It's the Nerds Invitational League.
You only offered me a second. That was it.
I didn't make you an offer for Fournette.
You did make me an offer for Fournette. The day.
Oh yeah, I probably did.
Yeah, you did.
But that was like as soon as it got cut.
This is classic. You're in too many leagues when
it really is.
If you'd offered me Michael Pittman in a second, I would have taken that super fast.
But that was the day he got cut. That was before he got picked up by Tampa Bay.
That's fair. You're right. It was that same day. And I was like, get out of here. Next question, please. So, no, we didn't answer the question. So, do you think it would take a first to get
Absolutely.
Leonard Fournette? So, all these running back injuries, Leonard Fournette looks like he's a guy. Are you paying a 21 first for Leonard Fournette?
If you need to fill a hole because of a Barkley or a CMC injury, I don't have a problem with that.
As a contender, absolutely no hesitation. Not as a rebuild or middle of the road,
Right.
but as a contender,
yeah, it's got to be a late
absolutely.
first. Yeah,
No hesitation.
We're here to win championships. We're not here to win trades.
Yep.
Okay. I want to see if you guys are on the same page.
Yep.
Garrett.
All right.
Next question.
Let's go back at it. Calvin Ridley has surpassed Julio as the fantasy wide receiver 1 in Atlanta. Is that likely, possible, or ridiculous?
Huh. I mean, this is a high first round draft
Are you
pick.
talking redraft or are you talking dynasty?
I either one. You pick.
All the above.
You make me clarify.
I just wanted to be on the same page. Well, I wanted to, we're talking on a weekly basis you got to score him because I think Julio's still talented enough to outproduce him. But I think Calvin Ridley when he came into the league was a very good route runner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's coming into his third year and he's showing that he's really putting together. Last year he had a really good solid year, and this was supposed to be a breakout year. He's entering a third year, the common breakout year. The third year for receivers, tight end. It's not just tight ends. Besides running back, it's a third year for receivers and tight ends. It's just we say tight ends more because you get a little bit more production out of the receiver. Right. But Calvin Ridley's done it in the perfect progression, right? Didn't do much at all as a rookie. You have prime Julio. Year 2, really started to step it up. Solid wide receiver 2. Right now in this offense, and Dirk Koetter offense that loves to throw the football more than anybody else in the world, more than Brett Favre, more than Tom Brady, more than Peyton Manning. He loves to throw the football. So, yeah, I think this is a clear step forward for Calvin ahead of Julio. Like for me in Dynasty, I'm paying 2 firsts for Calvin Ridley easily, and I might throw like a player that I don't overly love on top of it. Maybe somebody who's injury prone, like a guy like Paris Campbell who showed some upside. I mean, this is like Chris Godwin Jr., right? Like last year, massive step forward, top tier dynasty player. To get these, we just said earlier, these running backs, they're a dime a dozen. You get a guy like Calvin Ridley and Dirk Kotter's offense, who's super young, first round value. They've shown they're willing to pay their receivers long term. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones is almost done here. They're going to pay Calvin Ridley. They're certainly going to pick up his 5th year option. Worst case, so he's got a couple more years there. These guys are hard to come by. Young wide receiver ones are dynasty gold. Maybe these running backs have taken a big step forward in dynasty rankings overall, but these young wide receivers are dynasty gold. Terry McLaurin's in a different tier, but he's going up there. These guys are just guys that you could trust to be wide receiver ones week in, week out. They're too hard to come by. You can't trust any running back right now besides maybe Zeke to be a running back 1 week in, week out. Well, Jerick McKinnon, of course.
And I think more importantly is, especially at the wide receiver position, you can count on them once they're established as a wide receiver 1 to be a wide receiver 1 year in and year out. So, I mean, they're longer term. They're there for the long term.
Let me give the counterpoint. To this because I'm not as high on Calvin Ridley as other people are. We haven't necessarily seen him be the guy there. He's always kind of been in Julio's shadow. So when Julio's not there, is he still going to be able to do these things with the coverage shifting to him, him on the top corners?
The old Juju Smith-Schuster argument.
And on top of that, are we confident that this offense will still be here? Because Dan Quinn was really, really close to getting fired last year. Mm-hmm. And they're 0-2 right now, and it was an embarrassing loss that they took this week. So if it's a new coordinator, new system, and Julio isn't there to. I'm not trying to say Calvin Ridley's a bad player, fantastic route runner, good hands, but I don't know that I'm ready to quite put him in the Godwins, the Tyreek Hills, those young studs.
Hill, come on, okay.
Look at the guys' stats side by side. Week 1, they both got 12 targets. Julio Jones outgained him 157 yards to 130 yards, but. Obviously Calvin Ridley's getting all the touchdowns right now. And is that an effect that Julio's having? Is Julio drawing all that coverage near the red zone because they know that he's 6'3", 220 pounds? So that therefore, Calvin Ridley is left wide open, and that's why he's getting these right now.
Matt, I don't know where you've been for the last 10 years, but Julio never scores touchdowns.
I know that, but it seems like to Garrett's point, once Julio's gone and he's drawing all the coverage down there. What do you mean? You're shaking your head.
I don't think
I'm
it's
asking.
a matter.
I'm asking a question.
I'm telling you now.
Is Calvin Ridley still going to be able to score 2 touchdowns a game at this kind of clip?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my question prematurely.
Dude, sometimes in Jeopardy, you want
So
to
more or less,
quicker.
you're saying he's like a top 8 wide receiver right now.
I think he's top 12, which is enough. It's a wide receiver one. Here's the thing. From what I've seen so far, okay, and this, again, I said this before, man. I think we were talking about players like, that you don't overly love. Like Calvin Ridley was on my list of guys like I didn't overly love.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen for the first couple of weeks is a really, really good route runner who's out there running crisp routes, catching everything thrown to him, and then when he gets the ball, he's making plays. Okay, that's what I see, and what it is, it's continuation of what he did last year. It's that progression. That's what I love to see out of these young wide receivers. That this is what I've seen over my history of playing Dynasty fantasy football, right? I've been lucky enough to been playing for over 20 years. So I just have that. People go say all the time, like, well, what do you do? I just go off history of what I've seen and what's most common to happen. It's just odds, right? Like I'm playing odds. Like, okay, I've seen this. This is the way it happens. We talk about it all the time when we're scouting players. Like we've seen this 100 times. This is what's going to happen because it happens all the time. I've seen this happen with players like Calvin Ridley. They had that first round draft capital that are taken in a good spot, and they have this kind of progression into the years. They always turn into very, very good fantasy options for years to come. And if you're giving me Calvin Ridley, you're right, Matt. Maybe the touchdowns aren't always there, but when they are there, now we're talking top 3. We're talking Chris Godwin, right?
I mean,
top
he is
three fantasy football.
He's the number 1 guy right
He's
now.
the number 1 guy, right? Calvin Ridley is. Yep.
So when you get, it's like any player we talk about, the touchdowns make or break anybody, right? If he does get those touchdowns, then with how bad that defense is, that's not going to be better anytime soon. And how much these big leads they give up is the players, like if he does get those touchdowns, he's a top 3 fantasy football wide receiver. If he doesn't get those touchdowns, he's wide receiver 8, 9, 10. Still continually that wide receiver 1. We CeeDee Lamb's got into this mix soon for sure. I think he
totally
I
agree.
love what I've seen out of him. I love of his college tape. I think we'll see the same trend, progression with him as well. Year 1 looks really good. Year 2 looks great. Mari getting ready to leave in year 3, and he's full blown DeAndre Hopkins. That's what I see for CeeDee Lamb. I'm not saying Calvin Ridley is DeAndre Hopkins. And I would love, off the top of my head, I would think of somebody I do want to compare him to, but he's that wide receiver 1 that kind of falls in that category. Like nobody loves him. Nobody's gonna make him like Michael Thomas, wide receiver 1 overall, and he probably won't even Chris Godwin last year when Chris Godwin was fantastic. He wasn't wide receiver 1 overall. It was still Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. But I think he's at DJ Moore, Calvin. He's in that DJ Moore category, and you can argue DJ Moore is definitely significantly more expensive right now if you had to today than a Calvin Ridley. That might change after week 2 and where he is today, but that's where I view Calvin Ridley right now. A consistent wide receiver 1, even if it's low end, that you can rely on week in, week out. To me, that is extremely valuable if you have one of those guys in your lineup for 7 years that you don't have to worry about. No, that's where the price tag comes in for me. And again, I don't love Calvin Ridley, but I love what he's doing, and I love where I see his futures going. And my crystal balls are telling me that's where he's going to stay, right? When these Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas fall off, we're going to be looking at CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley.
All right. Next question. With all of the injuries, the Cleveland Football Browns could have 2 fantasy RB1s. Likely, possible, or ridiculous?
I don't think it's completely ridiculous. I mean, if you look at the way they've been using them, it seems like they're getting both guys involved early and often, and it seems like they're mixing production. It's like one guy gets a passing touchdown, the other one gets a receiving touchdown, the other one gets a rushing touchdown near the goal line. So as long as they're staying, I guess, their offense is able to sustain a relevant flow, right. I guess. I think both guys could maintain, especially with all the running back injuries going on.
I think it's likely. I think it's just in the same category of like the Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler situation. When that dude was going on, they were both running back 1s. I think it's very likely. I think Kevin Stefanski is a smart enough guy. He'll be able to see it. The formula they did on Thursday is the formula for winning. Play action, roll Baker out, use the 2 running backs definitely deep in the game. If it's me, I said this before, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I get any kind of lead going all into the second half, I'm running hurry-up offense, nonstop with both those running backs on the field. I'm having Odell, Jarvis, my tight end, and I'm running both running backs on the field at all times, and I'm just running hurry up so the defense can't get off the field unless they're calling their timeouts, and I'm pounding it. And you know which way it's coming. It's either coming Kareem or it's coming Nick Chubb. But either way, it's coming, and it's coming fast, and it's coming hard, and it's kind of, well, you know where that's going. So for me, it just, I think it's likely. I think it's going back to that Ernest Biner, Kevin Matte for the Browns, where you have 2,000-yard rushers on the team. I mean,
give me a sandwich and a cigarette. That's all.
Kareem Hunt looks like the Kareem Hunt we loved in Kansas City, right?
Yep.
He looks fantastic.
He really does.
Yep. He's averaging more yards than Nick Chubb.
Yep.
So to me, I think it's very, with how the season's going and the fact they could spell each other as well, they could both stay healthy. I'm looking at both of them running back once.
And Kareem Hunt's nine right now, and Chubb is 13. So they're right there. Yep.
I think because of the PPR value, Nick Chubb could end up trailing Kareem Hunt.
It's possible
on touchdowns, but we have to see. We have to see. Right now, they both look fantastic. Both guys you want to own. They're both must starts week in and week out.
And I think that's what was kind of lost on some people is, yes, the game flow in the situation was really, really bad versus Baltimore, but they both actually posted really good numbers. Like Nick Chubb was still averaging 6 yards a carry against Baltimore. It's not like he didn't play well. It was just they got blitzed so quickly that it was just it was a bad situation.
And they fell so far behind it to get away from the run. So it's look for this as like all teams come together here and starting to gel. The new offensive linemen, they have to come together as well. I think that run game, if it works out the way I hope it works out, that's the bread and butter of the Cleveland Browns this year. And using that play, it's where Baker's strong suit is. The play action, rolling out, that's where he's most accurate.
And Conklin didn't even play, did he?
No, Chris Hubbard looked fantastic.
Yep. So, I mean, their prize of free agency didn't even get to play. All right. I have a feeling I'm going to know before I even read it which way this is going to go. But currently, wide receiver 4 in fantasy football, Stephon Diggs is once again a absolutely legit wide receiver 1 candidate.
Before we go on,
that's ridiculous.
Before we go on, after watching the game last week, I was like, I'm gonna start the show. This is how I'm gonna open the show. I'm gonna look Matt dead in his eye sockets. I'm gonna look him right in his eye sockets.
The windows to my soul.
The windows of his soul, and ask it. Because listen, it's nothing's worse than somebody that just sticks to their guns when they're wrong, right?
Right.
Can Matt finally see? Because Gary, we've already seen it.
We've been on it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you finally willing to admit Stephon Diggs is a hell of a wide receiver in the NFL?
Here's the deal. I never thought he was a bad wide receiver.
Look at this backtracking son of a bee.
Just wait till he gets a little
He's
nick.
an NFL DB. You see that back pedal?
Wait till he
Backpedal,
a little
backpedal,
nick
backpedal.
and a boo-boo, and Stephon Diggs, he'll fall off the map for about 4 weeks. He's going to drop from the 4th wide receiver down to like the 13th or 14th or 15th. That's where he's going to end the season. It's fine. He looks great right now.
Stop. Here's the thing. The same thing I said before.
Stop.
Stephon Diggs.
Buffalo, he gets cold. Just
Does
wait.
get cold.
Just wait till he gets hit once in that cold.
Stephon Diggs
He's
is
been in Minnesota.
a premier.
They got a dome.
That's true. They do. No.
Stephon Diggs is a premier route runner with good hands. And now he's away from that turd for Kirk Cousins. I've been saying forever, Kirk Cousins, no thank you. Josh Allen, well, you know, Josh Allen
He's coming along.
He's coming along quite nicely.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about him in the next episode.
Well, you need to hold your panties over there because I'm not done talking about Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, and my favorite report that came out of there was of Buffalo this past week is because they were peppering Stephon Diggs early in the offense. He went to the head coach and said, hey, we need to get John Brown and Beasley involved too. Like they're getting open too. We need to get them involved too. Like he was pushing for them to get involved as well. All reports are he loves it in Buffalo. Right now, playing with Josh Allen as well. Matt, Stephon Diggs is, to me, I think this is, he was already a top, people had him as a wide receiver too, essentially.
Low end, 23, 24.
I think he's taking a big step to a low end wide receiver 1, which is, it's still with his, he's good enough with his route running hands that might be not as fair. Definitely from a dynasty aspect.
So what did I just say? He's going to fall to like 13 or 14. We're not like this big difference. We're not way off of
It's
each
just
other.
like the Joe Mixon last year when he had him at RB 11 and I had him at RB
Way
13.
off.
He had him at 13 and I had him
Either
11.
right or you're wrong, and you were wrong.
You guys like him more than me. I think that's well documented. It's not like I hate the guy. I just don't think he's able to play through nicks and boo-boos and be there for you all the time when you need him. And I think if you look back on his track record, you're going to see some weeks where he played and he was nicked up and he got you 5 points.
Okay,
That's
Matt,
all I'm saying.
Matt, I'm gonna do some quick hits for you, right?
All
quick.
right.
Quick hits. Okay. Kenny Galladay or Stephon Diggs?
This is supposed to be fast, right?
supposed to be real fast.
This is
Quick hit.
You're stumping me because I don't love either one of these players.
I want you pick one quick, Garrett. I want you to chime in saying right or wrong, and I'll chime in and say right, wrong.
Okay.
No rebuttal. That's it.
Okay.
You agree? You say so. You're wrong. You say he's wrong. If he's right, you say he's right.
Okay.
Matt,
Go.
Kenny Galladay or
Kenny
Stephon?
Galladay.
Right.
Wrong. Cooper Kupp.
Cooper.
Wrong.
Wrong. Julio Jones.
Julio.
Wrong.
Wrong.
For Dynasty.
This is Dynasty.
Okay.
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper.
I'll say right.
Just right. Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Right.
Wrong. Allen Robinson.
Stephon Diggs.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
I don't love Allen Robinson either, as you can tell.
I'm gonna say wrong. I like Allen Robinson more.
I'm going to say right. Keenan Allen. Big new $20 million year man.
Changing the guard. Diggs.
Yeah.
Right.
Stephon Diggs, right.
Tyler Lockett.
I think I'd rather have Lockett.
Wrong.
Wrong. TJ Shark.
Shark.
Wrong.
Wrong. That's it.
All right.
That's it.
I think.
So
no. Here, one more. Robert Woods. God, now that's close.
Robert Woods, I think, is just a more consistent player, so I'll go with him.
Probably right.
Right. Yeah.
But you missed the big one.
Mike Williams.
Mike
Don't
Williams.
even bother. Don't even bother.
I don't need crystal balls to pick that one out, Garrett.
Give me a break.
All right. The last one, I think we already covered it, but just for clarity's sake, CEH and Jonathan Taylor are more desirable to have on your dynasty teams than Saquon Barkley. Is that likely? Is that possible? Or is that ridiculous?
Everybody loves a new shiny toy.
Yep.
What do I say?
And he said, I do too.
It's likely on one and ridiculous on the other. How about that?
You guys have them so far apart for some reason. I've never understood that.
I don't have them so far apart, though. It's just, I think the fact that you just put Jonathan Taylor ahead of him, it's like so.
25 carries, 125 yards, touchdown, heavily involved in the passing game. What more do you want?
It's 1 week so far.
Same as CEH.
I know.
But I like CEH more.
No. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. Saquon Barkley is a product of a bad offensive line and a bad team. Good thing is, it's honestly probably good that he's going to sell this whole year for himself. He's going to get hurt eventually anyways. But I think the problem here is in Dynasty, and I know we started the show with this as well. We're going to end the show saying, oh, yeah, let's flip them for these guys. I still think I'd rather have Saquon Barkley.
It's close. It's not something that's super easy and just like, oh yeah, I don't even have to think about it. Like, it's tough. This is a guy that we have loved for years. We know the raw talent and ability, but right off the bat, you're getting an extra year.
You're getting 2 years.
Well, I mean, you're getting this year that he's not healthy and they are. But on top of that, you're also getting 2 years as far as their class goes.
Right. As their age.
As their age,
how long they've been in the NFL. Yep.
So I think those things on top of each other, and I think they're both in perfect situations for their skill set, which Barkley's a perfect fit anywhere because he's just a freak of nature. You know, so as far as a raw player, yeah, I'm taking Barkley, but all of the other things with it, I'm going to go with those two guys.
So here's a question for you then, Garrett. Would you rather have Zeke or Jonathan Taylor?
Zeke.
Okay. And you have Saquon ahead of Zeke in your Dynasty rankings?
No.
Never has been? Or just recently?
Just recently.
Okay, so the injury for you then is pushed Zeke.
You miss an entire year
has pushed Saquon to you back to like
RB6. I think
7?
he is for me. I think I have him at 6.
I think that's where I probably should move him until further notice as well. I moved him down to like 6 overall, and I was like, this isn't far enough. But I want to make sure like we did a podcast, and I'm not jumping to conclusions and just bumping him down.
Yeah, he's still a top 10 guy for me, but he's below a couple of those elite receivers like Devontae Adams and Nuke, and he's below like, he's right in the same range as like Kamara. I have them very similar now.
Best ability
is availability. You're right, and he's just not been available. I think the start of the show when you said Jonathan Taylor, me and Matt were both like, nah. But this point, how many points per game is Saquon Barkley really going to average per game over Jonathan Taylor? When or even help? Say Saquon's here to now on this team with the offensive, and granted, everything changes every year, free agency, draft. But how many more points is Saquon really going to average per game over a guy like Jonathan Taylor? Probably not much, honestly. And if I could take the guy playing in a dome behind a fantastic offensive line, a line that most of those guys, they're not going to let go anywhere. Mm-hmm. Definitely want to bring in their rookie quarterback or trade for Sam Darnold when the Jets get Trevor Lawrence. I think I might go back towards your original take, Garrett, and I think I would trade. Because if I'm a contender, if I'm not a contender, I'm going to sit on Zeke or Saquon. I think if I'm a contender, Matt, I think I would trade Saquon up for Jonathan Taylor and just go for that upside.
Was that the premise of the question? If you were a contender?
I mean, for Dynasty, so you can go either side of that if you're a contender or not a contender.
Okay.
Just
if
overall
if I'm
general.
not a contender, I'm definitely not doing it because I'm holding on to Saquon because I don't want the draft pick. Like I want to stay on the higher draft. This is like a blessing in disguise. Like, if I'm not a contender, my only asset probably is around Saquon. I'm like, this is great.
I thought when that was originally asked, it was kind of in a vacuum, and that's why I said no. If I'm a contender, then yeah, obviously you're not going to get anything out of Saquon this year. That changes the ballpark.
It's up to you, but yeah, it could be either way.
If I'm a contender, then I'll take either one of those guys. But if not, I will probably
You're going to keep Saquon.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. And fair. It's might be
close.
one of those things
absolutely
rue the day, but I think right now we're here to win, not what looks good on paper. And Saquon right now is honestly only looked good on paper for about a year and a half.
You can do a lot worse than Jonathan Taylor for sure. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you could make a bad trade.
That's the move you're gonna make. A young, really good quality upside running back who most likely, when healthy, is going to be a running back one for the next 4 to 5 years.
Yep.
And that's all you can ask for of any running back. So I think, Garrett, you're right. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think Saquon. Maybe a more savvy move might be trying to get like J.K. Dobbins and something, like a 21 first, something along those lines. If you can do that kind of move, like an upside young running back. But again, if you're winning now, you're not looking for that. You're looking for
instant
Jonathan
production.
Taylor. Yep. And to be fair, Jonathan Taylor's arrow is just constantly pointing up at this point, and it's only going to get more expensive. Even now, I can see tons of owners saying absolutely not on Jonathan Taylor. And if that's where we're at week 2, it's only going to get more expensive. We're like, okay, I'll take Saquon, but you got to give me something else on top.
Right.
And then it just starts getting silly.
Yep.
All right, well, that's an hour 6, so let's get into the Nerd Herd episode because we have so much more to talk about.
Sounds great.
And we'll do 5 minutes on analytics too, right?
Analytics. Do the math.
Analytics. Listen, it's not a war of attrition. It's a war of nutrition. Eat your vegetables.
I wish that original clip was still here.
You got to get me a carrot. Adios.